Hello, my name is Hannah Hurdle, and I'm the Library e-Learning Specialist at Ottenheimer Library here at UA Little Rock. In this video, I'll be discussing designing course content with proper accessibility practices in mind. In the spring of 2022, the Mini Professional Development Series went over some of the best practices for designing with accessibility in mind, including images with text, hashtags, video captions, descriptive text links, headings, transcripts, and more. You can access the video covering these accessibility practices on the library's YouTube channel or in the supplemental materials for this video. For those of you who have not seen part 1 of the Designing with Accessibility in Mind series, I want to restate the definition of accessible. Accessible means a person with a disability is afforded the opportunity to acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services as a person without a disability in an equally effective and equally integrated manner with substantially equivalent ease of use. The person with a disability must be able to obtain the information as fully, equally, and independently as a person without a disability. This definition was found on North Carolina State University's website. As noted in part 1, proper accessibility extends beyond assisting students with disabilities. So this could be a physical disability, a learning disability, etc. It also acknowledges how all students have different learning styles and needs. Content that is made accessible is easier to access, view, and use, which makes learning easier for all students and therefore promotes success for all students. In this video, I'll be going over 3 practical steps you can take to make your course content more accessible. In addition, I'll be highlighting 3 accessibility tools you can use to access your course content for proper accessibility. It is important to note that proper accessibility practices extend beyond what is covered in this video. Please view the supplemental content that goes with this video for more information. So the first proper accessibility practice relates to tables. So on the left, we have a bad table example. This table is hard for individuals using a screen reader to understand because the column headers are not labeled properly with HTML markup. The merge cells confuse the reading order, and the use of dash and month abbreviations are not clear. So you can't really, it's hard to tell, does one just go with reading chapters 1 through 3? It's just the way that it's organized doesn't make sense, one, to a screen reader, but to students in general. Same thing with the due dates. It's very unclear. It's kind of all merged together. So on the right, we have an example of a good table. So this table is easier for users to understand when using a screen reader because column headers are properly marked in the HTML markup and cells are not merged. Adding the word week in the first column also makes information flow smoothly when it is read aloud by the screen reader. Using the word to in the chapter assignments rather than a dash and spelling out the month in the due date column makes the table clearer to understand when read by a screen reader. So if you're actually using a table in PowerPoint, Word, whatever, the good table example is how you'd want to design it. So headers need to be clear, content needs to be separated so that it's easy to read both for students with the screen reader, but then just students in general. So there are some accessibility features to keep in mind when it comes to using tables. Columns and/or row headers should be clearly identified so screen readers can programmably determine the correct relationship between the headers and the data cells. You should include brief descriptive text, also known as a table caption, either before or after the table to indicate the content included in the table. Avoid using merged or split cells since they can alter a table's reading order. And then keep tables small and simple. Break up information into multiple tables if necessary. And then also don't use tables for decorative purposes as a way to organize information. Tables should be used for the purpose the tables were created for and not just to look decorative. So the second proper accessibility practice relates to reading order for PowerPoints. So this is only really necessary if you share your PowerPoint slides with students. The library doesn't share the PowerPoints that we create with students, so this isn't as big of an issue. But if you are sharing it, this is, again, something that's important for students who use screen readers. So if you share your presentation slides with students, it's important to make sure that the reading order of your slides is correct. The way that a normal sighted individuals read things on a slide is different from the way a screen reader would read the contents on a slide. So a screen reader will read the elements on the slide in the order they are added, which might be different from the way they're visually presented on the slide. So using slide layouts options available in PowerPoint can ensure that slides, headings, lists, and proper reading order will stay intact. You should avoid using the blank slide template. So there's a reason that there are already templates available to kind of alleviate this issue. So if you have created a PowerPoint and you're not sure what the reading order is for a screen reader, you can go to select Home, Arrange, and then go to the Selection Pane option. And this is what will pop up on the right-hand side of your PowerPoint. Excuse me. So the reading order is shown in reverse from bottom to top. You can also tab through the slide to check the reading order, and the corresponding element will highlight. So, you know, if I go to text box 20, it'll highlight on the slide what text box 20 is, so you know. So to rearrange the reading order, click and drag or use the arrow buttons on the selection pane. You can test the reading order with the tab key again to ensure the intended accuracy. So the third proper accessibility practice relates to creating audio descriptions. So an audio description should be provided for all pre-recorded videos. The purpose of audio descriptions is to provide a separate narrative audio track that best describes the important visual content and elements in a video in order to make it more accessible to individuals who are unable to see the video. Content that is only presented visually in the video should be described in order to make the video fully accessible. So it's best to avoid using phrases in your video such as over here or when I do this. Rather, try to include more descriptive language like when I click on the announcements tab within the course, things like that. And that's something I'm still working on when creating videos myself. It's something that you have to just kind of practice and get used to doing. If a video has little visual only information, it can be added to a video transcript. So an example would be the name and job title of a speaker. For standard audio descriptions, narration should be added during any existing pauses and dialogue. And I have, there's an example video in the supplemental content for this video. And you can learn more about audio descriptions for videos from Guidelines 1.2.5, audio descriptions pre-recorded, Guideline 1.25, audio description pre-recorded on the Worldwide Website Consortium, or W3C, on their website. So I have an example of a movie with audio description. So someone describes, and you have the person talking, and they describe again. So it's a back and forth between the speaker or narrator and the person who's describing, which can also be the speaker or narrator who just goes back later, or does it during the video. To just provide more context for people who are blind or have issues seeing, so they can get full context of what's happening in the video. So accessibility tools. So I'm going to show you the Wave evaluation tool, the color contrast analyzer, and Totality. Totality has a screen reader built in, but you can also check out NVDA screen reader, which is another screen reader tool. And all of these have been linked in the supplemental content for this video if you want to check them out. So this is what Wave looks like. All three of Wave, Totality, and the color contrast tool are all, they don't work always well on like PDFs, Google Docs. It's more for websites. So if you're a faculty member who's created a website to house all your content, so you're using something outside of Blackboard, or if you're doing like a communication class or social media or something where students have to do something online, this is a great way for students to learn how to make their content accessible, or for faculty, make sure that the thing that they're using outside of Blackboard is accessible for students. And I'll show you an example on the library's website. Totality, and these can all be downloaded as extensions in Google Chrome. Totality can sometimes have issues, so you might have to save it as a bookmark rather than its extension. Sometimes is a little iffy. So that's Totality, that's Wave, and this is the color contrast tool. Totality, you can look at headings, contrast, labels, image alt text, things like that. And then the color contrast analyzer, you have different options on how the color contrast can look when you're testing. So let me get out of here. I'm going to so like I said, this works the best on websites. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing that screen and start sharing my other screen real quick. So, share. Okay, so here we are on the library's website. So Wave, again, you download it as a Google extension, and it automatically pops up. You have errors, alerts, color contrast. You can look at the structural elements, the features, and then the ARIA tags. And if you go over to details, it'll tell you, you can click on it and it'll take you directly to what the issue is. So this is a linked image missing alternative text. And you can click on so you can just navigate and see where all these different errors is. So, some of it isn't errors, like the features of the structural elements aren't errors. You need to be looking at errors, alerts, or color contrast issues. And you can test around with color contrast in Wave as well. And I'm going to go to, if you click the little eye icon, it'll tell you what it means, why it matters, and how to fix it. So that is Wave. And you also, sometimes there might be a tag, you're like, okay, I see this on the screen, but I come over here to details and I can't find it. Anything that's like shaded like that, where you can't click on it, you have to turn style off. So this is something that's like underneath that style element. So that is Wave. And to turn it off, you just click the Google extension. So Totality is up here. Like I said, sometimes it doesn't work in Chrome. So if you save it as a bookmark, you'll see these little glasses. Like I said, you can see headers. So there are two header elements that are that need to be fixed. You look color contrast. So if it's green, that means you're good. If it's red, then it means there's some kind of issue. If there's a little yellow warning sign, it's this image is decorative, so it doesn't have any alt text. And then the screen reader, it'll appear over on the side, and it tells you, or on the right side, tells you in this little box, trying to describe what's being shown. And I'm hovering, I go over databases A through Z, journal finder, research databases, the search button, need help. So this is a way to like test to see if a screen reader would work on your website. So, and then the last one is color contrast analyzer. So you can capture a page region, capture visual content, or capture the whole page. So you have different options, different levels that you can choose from for the color contrast. You can select the pixel radius. It automatically goes ahead and does a scan, which you can download. And you've already seen an example that I had in the PowerPoint. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. In conclusion, perfect accessibility, of course, doesn't happen overnight. Instead, it is a continuous process that reaps more benefits the longer you continue to practice it. Several of the accessibility practices that I've discussed in this accessibility series are ones I'm still actively trying to implement in my work in the library, and as I gave the example of descriptive audio. When your course resources are truly accessible, when they can actively be used and easily understood by all students. Designing courses with accessibility in mind truly has so much to offer students in course instruction because it is the active process of removing barriers to student learning. If you would like to start the process, or if you just want to learn more about proper accessibility practices, please reach out to me at hfhurdle@ulr.edu, and I would be happy to help you on the journey to better accessibility for your students. Thank you if you enjoyed this video.